Hi there, this is John Drew here from Elevated Planet, bringing you part 3 of the interview with Chris Stiles of 365 Pin Code. As before, there will be a link at the end of this video which enables you to get access to the full 1-hour interview that Chris and I had. There will be brief summaries of parts 1 and 2 just to build the frame sufficiently to make sense of part 3. That's it for now, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you. Hi there, Elevated Planet community. This is John Drew here from Elevated Planet, and I'm here today with Mr. Chris Stiles of 365 Pin Code. As I was working on the newsletter for the week, this happens to be edition number 22. I know number 22 is a special number. Explain a little bit about what numerology is all about.
What needs to be clarified is that I am actually not a numerologist. What I am actually first and foremost is a research scientist. That has always been my training. My father was a mathematician. As a child, he took me through many extensive exercises around critical thinking, developing the ability to look for deeper meanings within numbers, especially patterns. And I think that is probably my greatest gift, is to be able to work with series of numbers that identify patterns. Numerology, which basically uses only numbers, provided me with a strategic tool which really allowed me to dig very deep into the human design, especially from the concept of what I call human futurology. We view ourselves as futurists, strategic futurists, but working in the human dimension, not in the dimension of IT. We are actually a grand organized design. All the great minds have always said that mathematics is the language of the universe. So if we are an expression of the universe, which we absolutely are, then why would we not have a mathematical design? This revelationary and revolutionary research is only going to take off when people actually begin to open their minds as to the fact that we are so much more than what we can even begin to fathom. And when you actually suddenly realize that your date of birth and your name are not random, that there is without a doubt an incredibly brilliant and genial set of processes that have taken place around you before you were, if you will, placed into this meat suit, this physical life form. You are a mathematical expression of genius, as am I, as is Suzanne, as is Jolie, as is everybody who watches this recording.
Again, it is difficult for a lot of people to open their minds to this to a large extent, because we get so steeped in our own version of reality. I'm relatively new to this because my mind was blown apart about 4 years ago when I realized that the universe and the world was so much bigger than I'd ever realized. And it's incredible once you start to unpack this stuff.
So let's just pause for a moment and talk about Jolie, because she's a critically important component of Elevated Planet and your journey forward. And I think your choosing her as a strategic partner was probably one of the most incredibly wise things that you've ever done. Firstly, because she carries the master number 22 life path. So these are people who have incredible gifts to be able to help transform the world. This is something that we at 365 Pin Code are trying to do, is build the bridge between the world as we know it, which is fear-based, and the world that Jolie and you wish to move people to, which is not fear-based, which is actually so much more, which, as you say, is elevated consciousness. But that bridge has got to be a practical bridge. And this is why, and I know we've spoken about it at length, but this is why our partnership with yourselves is so incredibly important, because that practical bridge, if you will, gives people the safe walkway for them to tiptoe into our world. And then if they get a little bit scared, they can reverse out and then they can tiptoe a little bit forward, but at least it's numbers driven. The stuff that Jolie does is off the charts, absolutely off the charts. I can't do it. I can't understand it. She's in a world of her own and a realm of her own. But in many ways, and again, it comes back to the 22, the genius of the 22, the master builder. and many things that have happened in this world of ours have been massive transformation, changes, etc., etc. The building of new things, ideas, concepts, structures have been done through people with this number 22 life path.
With Elevated Planet, what we're trying to do is kind of, a big part of this is there to appeal to the mainstream. It's turning the negative media on its head, and it's kind of understanding that that is something which people are comfortable with, because we all know that the media always kind of just reinforces the negativity and the fear-based way of approaching life. But then it's balancing it out, having fun in life, because I do think this is like part of elevating who we are, and it is elevating our emotions to a better place, which is the place that we all want to be. We all want to be living in, with love, laughter, and getting the right lifestyle behind us. That's our foundation. But we create the opportunity for the spiritually curious to be able to explore, as you say, to tiptoe across that bridge and then go back again if they're not comfortable with it, and go back to their version of reality. Who else out there that we might know in the world today might also be a 22?
Master number 22 is known as the number of the master builder. People that have this number, especially in their life path, have been, if you will, blessed with the ability to do and achieve phenomenal things this lifetime. However, this has to be done in cooperation, collaboration with others, and it has to be done in a way which is being driven for the benefit of many, not just themselves. If you take, for example, Sir Richard Branson. Sir Richard Branson, I think, is probably one of the greatest architects of change in order to be able to do things to benefit people. So wherever he has seen something that he thinks is wrong, or that has been developed in a manner which has evolved into being exploitative, he will then go and completely re-engineer the business model. And he will say, hold on a moment, people are not getting their bang for their buck here. And that's what the 22 is, because the 22 is a feminine energy. Now, Sir Richard Branson has a number 22 life path, as does Joe Lay, as does, for example, Meghan Markle, as does one of the current British MPs, who was born on the 16th of June, 1962. They've got these number 22 life paths. But the thing is, and this is the rub, when you have a master life path or a master number, you've got to remember it's about mastery. So that life path presents you with two options. You either honor the double 2, which is the feminine energy, doubled up or amplified, working in a manner that is cooperative, collaborative for the collective good of all. Or the number 22 drops into its lower octave, which is the number 4. 22, 2 plus 2 equals 4. And the number 4, which is the lower octave of the 22 life path, actually is all about me. And this is where things go wrong. So we are going to be facing a very, very interesting year. And if I might digress for a second, John, because my grasshopper mind has just moved in about 500 different directions all at once, and I'm really trying to rein it in and just kind of stay focused down one channel. But this year, 2022, brings in two numbers, 20 and 22. Therefore, the master number 22 is going to be playing itself out very powerfully this year, as is the number 20. Now, if we take the number 20 and we just pause for a second and we say, hold on a moment, let's just go and dig up a little bit around that number. And we go and take a journey. And I actually enjoy doing this from time to time, but believe it or not, even though people might say, oh, goodness me, this is about as unscientific as you can get. I actually love pulling out the range of the master or major arcana within the tarot deck and actually having a look at the number 20. And the number 20 is dealing with judgment. So how fascinating that if we look at this year and we just split those numbers down the middle, 20 judgment and 22 the master builder. In other words, where people with this number have been acting in a manner where they have been exploiting, if you will, the system or the collective of the system for their own advantage, then they are going to be brought under extreme judgment. And mark my words when I say that. I don't say that lightly. So this is the whole thing. It's like when you are blessed with one of these incredibly rare numbers, the journey that you are on is a journey that is so much bigger than you. However, when you turn that journey into some type of narcissistic endeavor, where you leverage these incredible abilities so that it's all about you and winning and power and this and this and this, and exploiting, if you will, the meek and the mild in order to get to where you want to be, that moment of comeuppance is always coded into your chart. And John, I think this is probably one of the most fascinating things that has been revealed over and over and over again in the life path mathematical modeling exercises that I've done. And we're literally talking thousands and thousands and thousands of charts that have been analyzed, which is incredibly important because that's the only way that you get rigor within research data, is to actually see that as much as we might not want to know this, when we look at the mathematical architecture of our life from birth to death, there are definitely moments of karmic comeuppance. And if you have not lived your life as you were meant to, according to your design, when those moments of karmic comeuppance present in a given year or over a couple of years, that's it. Game, set, and match. You can do what you want. It's going to be a great white shark attack in your life. Finished. And that suddenly brings in such an incredibly interesting notion around vengeance, around the need for vengeance. Because when you suddenly realize, oh my word, hold on, all of this is actually built into this grand design, that if you actually behave in this way, as you sow, so shall you reap. Law of karma, law of cause and effect, and bang, there it is. But the thing is, because we are unwise or unaware, or even if I may use the word unconscious as to this design, we often feel that we now have to go and exert retribution upon others, etc., because we've been harmed in whatever shape or form. Whereas in actual fact, it's all there in their design. And as they have acted and as they have sowed, etc., so shall they reap. Which really begins to turn much of how we approach the world and life on its head. But back to the year that we find ourselves in, 2022. Now, let's just take a big step back here. And we've dealt with the number 20. We've looked at the number 22, which is the master builder, and the positives and the negatives around that. But now we come to a very interesting year because we have, if you will, 4 numbers. The year 2022 carries within it 3 by 2s and 1 by 0. The 0 is always an amplification factor. Therefore, if you will, whatever the numbers are that exist are their characteristics or their vibration or their essence is massively amplified. So that's all the 0 does, is amplify it. Right. Now we've got 3 2s. Oh my goodness gracious me. There's no other number counterbalancing it. None. So what is the number 2? The number 2, and you mentioned this word earlier, and I almost leapt out of my chair as you mentioned it, because the word was balance. Remember you spoke about balance earlier, John?
Yes.
Well, the number 2 is all about balance. It's the feminine energy. It's most importantly, it's about equilibrium, right? It is cooperation, collaboration, partnerships, diplomacy, nurturing, love, kindness, etc., etc. Now, deep breath. 2022 has got 3 2s. In other words, there's an overabundance of 2s. Plus there's a 0, which is going to really add vuma into this number 2. So what are we dealing with? I believe that we are dealing with a year which is going to have emotional outpourings on a level that we have probably never seen nor experienced.
Wow.
Because the number 2 is the feminine energy, This is going to be, if you will, a surge of feminine energy, like that is going to, like we, as I say, we've never experienced it. It's going to be almost biblical and of mind-blowing proportions. The thing is, because it is such an extreme set of coding, 3 2s and a 0, there is a very, very high probability that this year, this emotional outpouring is going to be of such an intensity that it's going to ricochet or swing what we think of this universal balance right to the other side. So I think that during this year and by the end of this year, we will be possibly experiencing a very unbalanced or out of sync system.
Right.
Massively emotional with if you will, logic really on the back burner. And the thing is, logic and emotions need to be balanced. So that, I believe, is going to in turn create, towards the end of the year and into 2023, potentially, and I use the word potentially because I never want to be perceived as one of these, gurus or crystal ball gazers or whatever, but I think that by 2023, hundreds of thousands, if not tens of millions of people around the world are going to be desperately searching for a new norm, for a new truth.
Yes.
And my intuitive study of the numbers tells me that this is when this will start to turn around. Also, remember, John, this is a year when anything that has been oppressed or suppressed is going to explode.
Mm.
So let's get into an extraordinarily controversial topic at the moment, if we may, just for a minute or two. And I'm actually going to raise the issue of Prince Andrew and what is happening, and the chaos, and he's, if you will, being stripped of his royal duties and his HRH, etc., etc. Well, you see, the thing is, this is the start of what I would call the feminine energy revolution. Now, if you look at Prince Andrew and you go and study his numbers, Prince Andrew is born on the 19th and he has a number 19 life path. Therefore, the number 19 presents in double impact in his 365 pin code, or if you will, elevated planet consciousness design.
Right.
Now, the thing about karmic number 19 is it says that if you enrich yourself, the number 19 is a number that deals with leadership and powerful leadership. Nelson Mandela, born in 1918. Do the maths, 1918, 19. So his world or career number was 19. Look at the change that he wrought throughout South Africa, but for the better.
Right.
So the number 19 is a karmic debt number, and it carries within it huge power and huge potential to do phenomenal things in terms of leadership. But the thing about leadership, John, and I think this is something that has been lost at the moment throughout this world that we live in, is that the purpose of leaders is to serve others.
Right.
And leaders are so much at the moment about themselves. In fact, much of the world that we live in is actually completely controlled by narcissistic leaders.
Sad, but true.
And what has happened with Andrew, and I mean, I've done it, I've studied him, I've modeled and mapped his entire life path. And the reason his life is collapsing right now in the way it is because he has misused and abused his position of power. And in a year now, which is coded universally for the feminine revolution, well, he's getting his comeuppance.
Right.
And this is just how it is. And I've actually published on 365pincode.com under the research piece, which is set aside, which is called the pin code. That is, if you will, the tab where all of the research sits. I've published an extensive article on Prince Andrew, and if people would like to go into it and go and have a look, there it is. They will actually see that the years that he is in right now coincide. In other words, the mathematical design of his life coincides perfectly with number 19. Therefore, this is all that moment that I spoke earlier of karmic comeuppance. And as you sow, so shall you reap. And you know, John, I am incredibly grateful to the likes of yourself and Jolene and Elevated Planet, pioneers that are doing stuff. I mean, look at this. You know, here I am, sitting in a tiny little office in Hampshire. 6 months ago, we relocated here from South Africa. You're sitting in your tiny little office there. I think your office looks far better. Mine looks very Spartan at this moment in time. But here are two people using technology in order to get a message out there. Two people, hopefully around the entire world, that there is so much more to life than what we can ever even begin to fathom. And I really hope that very soon global leaders, governments, strategic thinkers, strategic planners will begin to sit up and take notice of the work and the efforts that people like you and I and our support system are doing in order to give this world what I believe is a very needed shakedown in terms of so much of what we believe to be true about life is in actual fact a lie.